This is English 5, Unit number 6, Managing Life. In this video, we're going to check grammar. We're going to talk about advice, necessity, and preference by teacher wvinueza. Objectives. In this video, we're going to check the grammar structure we can use to talk about advice, necessity, and preference. Then we're going to practice with some exercise, and finally, we're going to practice speaking using reduction of verbs for these three situations: advice, necessity, and preference. So let's start. What's advisable? Okay, the first thing that we have to notice is we write advice with C when we are talking about the noun. Advice with C, it means consejo. And advice with S, it is the verb, aconsejar. So please don't forget to notice that big difference. We can use the four grammar structures to talk about advice, like had better, ought to, should, and might want to. We're going to check one by one in detail. You'd better do something quickly. Okay, in this case, we are using you'd better to do something quickly. Is the short form of you had better do something quickly. In a negative example, I better not add anything to my schedule. So you can use it affirmative or negative. I ought to do some volunteer work, or you ought to let them do the talking. Ought to and should are pretty much interchangeable, but should is more common than ought to or had better when you are speaking. And the last one, might want to. You might want to take a colleague with you. This is also for advice. So remember, we can use had better, ought to, should, or might to for advice. As I said before, should is more common than ought to or had better when you are speaking. Necessity, or what's necessary. We have four grammar structures that we can use. We can use be going to, have to. That is be going plus have to. We can use only have to, have got to, and don't have to. We don't have to, the negative form, we must be careful because there is a change in meaning. Let's check one by one. I'm going to have to do something about it. I'm using the first one. I'm going to have to do. I've got to decide by next week. I've got is the short form or of I have got. And if we're talking about the third person, she's got to decide by next week. It means she has got to decide by next week. You don't have to spend time on this. In this case, we're not talking about necessity. It means that it's not necessary. If you want to spend time on this, you can do it. But if you don't, it is not necessary. And when I have to study for my exam, here we're talking about a necessity. So what can be the difference among all of these? Like I've got or she's got is softer than I have to. So that's the difference. For preference, what's preferable? So here we can see the picture. You have to decide, you have to choose. So for preference, we use I rather. I rather not stay in my current job. I rather is the short form or I would rather. I in this case means good. This is a negative sentence and you can also use an affirmative sentence. I rather eat fruits than hamburgers. So when you use this expression, you use rather than. Okay, so don't forget about that. Practice. Complete a conversation with problems and solutions. Then compare with a partner. Did you have any of the same ideas? So for this exercise, we can have many answers because it is according to your opinion or your thoughts. So here I suggest you to stop the video, write your answers, and then compare with the ones suggested here. Okay, now we're going to check one by one. Number one, we have a test tomorrow, so I ought to study tonight, but I'd rather sleep early. And B says, I think you better study because you have to get a good grade. 2. I don't know what to do. I received an offer for a job. It looks really interesting, but it doesn't pay very well. I'm going to have to make up my mind if I want to get it. That's a hard decision to make. You might want to do some thinking before. 3. I need more exercise. I ought to make an effort to exercise every day, but it takes so much time. And B answers, well, you don't have to exercise every day, but you ought to do it at least 3 times a week. For example, number 4, I have a friend who makes fun of me all the time, but I'd rather not pay attention to him. That's not good. I think you're going to have to talk to him. And last one, number 5, my sister hasn't applied to college. She's got to study if she wants to go to college. B answers she'd better decide soon because she's running out of time. She's got to hurry up. So here in this exercise, we're using some ideas of our own, but we are going to check also the grammar structures that we just learned to talk about advice, necessity, and preference. So in the first one, it says we have a test tomorrow, so I ought to study tonight. Here we have I ought to for advice, and I rather sleep early for preference. I think you better study advice because you have to get a good grade. Have to necessity. I don't know what to do. I received an offer for a job. It looks really interesting, but it doesn't pay very well. I'm going to have to make, here is the other structure, I'm going to have to make up my mind if I want to get it. So here we also use a structure for advice. That's a hard decision to make. You might want to do some thinking. Might want to advise. I need more exercise. I ought to make an effort. I ought to advise. Remember that we can change ought to by should. So in this case, it would sound like this. I should make an effort to exercise every day. But it takes so much time. Well, you don't have to. Here we have a negative form of have to. Remember, when we use negative, it doesn't mean necessity. It means that it's optional. You don't have to exercise every day, but you ought to do it at least 3 times a day. So here we have advice. I have a friend who makes fun of me all the time, but I rather not. We're using preference in negative. That's not good. I think you're going to have to. You're going to have to. Here we're talking about necessity. My sister hasn't applied to college. She's got to study if she wants to go to college. She's got to. Here we're talking about necessity, or she has got to. She'd better decide soon. She'd better advise. She had better. Because she's running out of time, she's got to hurry up. Again, necessity. She's got to hurry up. Okay, so please don't forget these structures. Listening and speaking. In American English, you're going to hear a lot of contractions in conversation, so you must be aware of them to be able to understand.
Page 57. 3. Speaking naturally. Reduction of verbs. A. Listen and repeat the sentences above. Notice the reduction of the verbs. In what situation might a person give this advice? Can you think of other advice?
You might want to try a new instructor.
You better study the driver's manual.
You're going to have to practice more.
You ought to take more lessons.
You gotta pay attention.
Can you think more phrases or sentences where you can use the reduction of verbs? I want to go to school tomorrow. I better study for my exam. I'm gonna have to study more. I ought to take more conversation classes. I gotta pay attention to the teacher in class. Okay, so that's all about advice, necessity, and preference. I hope you understood. And if you didn't, you can repeat the video, check the parts that you need, or you can write an email to me for further explanation. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.